Okay.
All right, sir, what is your reaction to the selection for the new superintendent?
Well, I'm, like everyone else, very excited about having someone here who actually knows what they're doing.
Explain that.
What do you
What are
mean
you
by that,
impressed?
Greg?
Well, she's an experienced superintendent, far more than I. She has been in Texas for, I think, 3 or 4 years, and several years in Minneapolis, St. Paul, prior to that. So she's certainly an experienced superintendent with an excellent track record.
Have you talked to her at all?
I've spoken with her briefly. We will spend some time together, of course, after her selection and nail down transition details.
What's the most advice you're going to give her?
Challenges ahead for her.
Well, a couple questions. My impression of her is she's certainly young and energetic as compared to old and tired, but she knows what she's doing. Let me say that, and I'm confident that we'll have a knowledgeable superintendent who can lead this system into the future. It does have a lot of challenges. It is still a tale of two systems. I think we've sort of stabilized it, put it in the right direction, but again, there's a lot of back office work that needs to be done. There's a lot of work that needs to be done in the schools. We have to get the structures in place to allow more autonomy at the school level, and again, we have to engage parents across the district, not just in select communities.
What kind of advice are you going to give her about coming into this
Well,
position?
advice, of course, is worth what you pay for it. I will try and point out where I think there are pitfalls, which I have no intention of doing on camera here. But I want her to be successful. I think she certainly has the capability and capacity to be successful. If there's anything I can do to help her along that path, I'm going to do it.
What was your biggest challenge?
What was my biggest challenge, other than finding the men's room? Well, I came under some very different circumstances. My third day on the job, the largest cheating scandal in American educational history broke. I had to reduce the workforce by almost 200 people the first week on the job, and I had to remove 40 principals a month before school opened. So I had some challenges.
And what is her greatest challenge as she steps in?
Well, again, her greatest challenge is to learn the system, learn where its problems are, where the challenges are, and then to put strategies in place to address those issues. Clearly, we have done some good work on graduation rate. She has to do more along with her team and the board. She can't do it all herself.
What about the compensation package? I think the mayor weighed in at $600,000. Some of the parents saw that was obscene.
Well, I think I know where that number came from. That's what I was being paid when I was chancellor of the university system. I think they just pulled that number out of the air. They haven't discussed compensation with me, so I have no idea what she's going to be paid.
What do you want the community to know about what you tried to do in the 3 years that you were here as superintendent?
Well, what I tried to do is put the wheels back on. And I also tried to make decisions that were in the best interest of children and not adults. And I think that if we do that, continue to do that, we will be successful. And I think too much of this system was devoted to the sensitivities and concerns of adults instead of children. And so I want to make sure, and I have tried to make sure, that every child at least has the opportunity to learn.
Are you glad to be shuck of this job?
Well, I am not a career educator, and this is not something I chose to do for my life's work. It was certainly an honor and a privilege to do this, but maybe it's sort of like the Army. I've done it once and don't want to do it again.
Best memory, worst memory?
Oh, great memories in schools all the time. There's nothing greater than going to a school and watching children learn, watching true professionals practice their craft. And so those will be great memories. Some of the bad memories, you saw them, they're on tape at board meetings.
What would you say to people who are critical of the selection process, including thinking that it moved too fast?
Well, I think one of the things people probably need to understand is when you're dealing with people of this caliber, they're not going to put themselves in a pool. They're not going to subject themselves to having lost. And so they will have early conversations with you. If they believe that they're not going to be the person, they will say, no, thank you. And the only person you would see in a pool is a person who'd be happy to have their name out there. Let's say someone who's never been a superintendent and just tickled to have their name surface for a major superintendency. But when you're dealing with these superstars that they were dealing with, I believe, then they're not going to hang around. There's always only going to be one finalist. You have that at major universities as well. There's generally, for a major research university, there's generally only one finalist.
Do you think there's a problem with people understanding that?
Well, I don't know that they've been told that. But again, it'll all depend on you to get the word out. But they were never going to have a pool of people to look at. It's just not going to happen.
Is the worst over for this school system?
I think it is. I think we're headed in the right direction. I think that we have plans in place, but planning is very difficult in this environment. It's not as deterministic as it is in a business environment. You just put programs in place that are directionally correct, and you manage the daily shocks to those programs. And so those are in place, and I think she will certainly be able to add to them and shape them much more intellectually than I could, because she is an educator and I was not.
Was this job tougher than you thought?
This job is the hardest job I've ever had. And it's the least I've made in the last 15 years, I think, or 20 years as well. And so it says something really about what society values and what it should be valuing. When I was running a major corporation, it wasn't easy, but I had management in great depth to help me in the process, and we could get things done a lot more easily than in these types of environments. This is a hard job. It's day-to-day trench warfare. It is hand-to-hand combat. But I have to admire the people who want to do these things.
And how proud are you of your accomplishments?
Well, I'll let them.
Give me one second.
Right here.
Good afternoon, everyone. We want to apologize for running a tad bit tardy. We had a couple of things that we had to button up. We have done so. There is no report out from executive session. We do have one item for action at this time, and that is the approval of Dr. Maria Kostarfin as superintendent of the Atlanta Public School System. I will begin reading a resolution to that effect, followed by my colleagues. Then I will call for a standing roll call vote. Whereas the Atlanta Independent School System exists under the authority of the district charter as authorized by state law, the Atlanta Board of Education is charged with the responsibility of the control and management of the Atlanta Independent School System, known as the Atlanta Public Schools. And
whereas the board shall appoint as its executive officer a school superintendent who shall have such qualifications as provided by law. The board shall provide the superintendent with a contract for employment for a fixed term as provided for under Code Section 20-2-101 of the Georgia Code as amended, and
whereas the employment of contract of Errol B. Davis Jr., who was appointed as superintendent of APS on July 1st, 2011, ends June 30th, 2014, and
whereas the board voted on the formation and composition of a superintendent search committee comprised of a broad base of Atlanta Public Schools stakeholders to identify the next superintendent, and
whereas the Atlanta Public School System Search Committee was chaired by Ann Kramer, retired director for IBM Corporate Citizenship and Corporate Affairs for the Americas. The search consultants leading the charge included Boardwalk Consulting and Diversified Search, and
whereas Dr. Maria Jo Kostarfin was unanimously selected from a list of 4 candidates by the board to replace Superintendent Errol B. Davis Jr., and
where Dr. Kostarfin hails from Selma, Alabama, where she graduated from public school and began her teaching in public school, and
whereas Dr. Kostarfin earned a doctorate in administration, planning, and social policy with a concentration in urban superintendency from the Harvard Graduate School of Education. She earned a Bachelor of Arts in Political Science and Spanish from Tulane University and Master of Education degrees from Auburn University and Harvard University. She has also studied at the University of Seville, Spain, and University of Innsbruck, Austria. And
whereas Dr. Kostarfin has nearly 20 years of successful experience in public education. She was formerly the superintendent of the Austin Independent School District, which she joined in 2009 as its first African American and first female superintendent. And
now, be it resolved that Dr. Maria Joel Kostarfin shall serve as superintendent for 3 years from 2014 through 2017 in accordance with the charter of the Board of Education of the City of Atlanta. Board policies now in effect and which may hereinafter be adopted, federal and Georgia law, and the terms and conditions of her contract of employment. Be it further resolved that the board chair shall be authorized to execute the attached contract of employment with Dr. Kostarfin in substantially the same form as attached on behalf of the Atlanta Independent School System, and such contract shall be made available for public inspection through the Office of the Board of Education upon final execution of the contract by both parties. I will now entertain a motion to approve the aforementioned resolution.
so moved. So moved.
I am deeply honored and moved to approve the resolution for Dr. Maria Jo Kostarfin to serve as superintendent of Atlanta Public Schools. May I have a second to that motion?
I will take that as a motion and that
Yes.
as a second.
Thanks, Nancy.
It has been moved and properly second that we approve the aforementioned resolution. Any discussion? Hearing none. I will now call the roll. Representing Educational District 1, Ms. Leslie Grant. Aye. Representing Educational District 2, Mr. Byron Amos. Aye. Representing Educational District 3, Mr. Matt Westmoreland. Aye. Representing Educational District 4 and Board Vice Chair, Ms. Nancy Meister.
Aye.
Representing Educational District 5, Mr. Stephen Lee. Aye. Representing Educational District 6, Ms. Ishay Collins.
Aye.
At large, Seat 8, Ms. Cynthia Briscoe Brown.
aye.
At large, Seat 9, Mr. Jason Estevez. Aye. It was with great honor that I cast the final vote in favor of Dr. Kostarfin. Down there to offer a chance for Dr. Kostarfin to speak and answer a few questions. She does have a flight to catch before she heads to the airport. Is there a way we can move the podium? Oh, we're going to. Okay, great. So if we can follow. Hey, everybody. Hey, public. You guys doing? This is a special moment for our kids in the Atlanta public school system. This is a special moment for the 7,000 employees of the Atlanta public school system, the APS family. This is a special moment for all of our parents, community activists, community leaders, and the broader Atlanta community. This is a special moment for our city. We have been through a lot as a city and as a school system. And this moment represents the end of those trying times. Before I yield the floor to Dr. Kostarfin, I want to talk about a couple of things. What this search represented, and I want to thank a couple of people. First of all, I want to thank my colleagues on the board. I believe we have the absolute best Board of Education in the entire country. These folks work harder than anyone I have ever seen before, and I have the honor of working with them. So I want to thank you all for your continued service and leadership. I want to thank the members of our search committee, ably led by Ann Kramer, who I don't know if she's still here. Where's Ann? Hey, Ann! Thank you. Yep. So Ann is pointing out the other members of our search committee. We have Duria Faruqi here, the former chief operating officer from the city, Rita Simmons, the district-wide teacher of the year, our parent rep, Abby Martin. I think there's Bill Rogers hanging out in the corner over there, and my former colleague and friend, Cecily Harsh-Kanane, who have done a fantastic job of representing the city. I also want to thank our search team. I see Sam Petway is with us. I don't know if Veronica Biggins is with us as well, but Eunice Bell is here. Thank you guys. You've done a remarkable job. Lastly, but definitely not least, I want to thank Mr. Errol Davis. He has I have said this before, and I will continue to say it because I think it's true. It takes a special kind of leader to run into a burning building. And Errol Davis ran into a burning building and pulled 47,000 kids out of it. And for that, this city owes him a debt of gratitude. Thank you. So I've already recognized the search committee. This process was absolutely amazing. It's been a really, really long time. A lot of people came together in a really, really special way to make this day happen. Again, we had a search committee that was made up of parents, of members of the business and philanthropic community, district-wide teacher of the year, my personal favorite, our student representative, Mr. Trayvon Fitz, who is a senior at Washington High School, who will be attending Clark Atlanta University. In the fall, we had representatives from all walks of life stand up in a really, really powerful way and dedicate their time to make this thing right for our kids, and I want to thank all of them again. We had over 36 community meetings all around the city. Over 200 people attended, including students, parents, and employees. We had a citywide survey that actually, we'll get to that. Come on. We gonna have to work on our communication. No, I'm just no, we had a citywide survey that over 1,100 people responded to, over a pool of over 469 prospects. I'll say that again, over 469 people from 37 different states in some way, shape, form, or fashion stood up and said, I want to give a shot at leading the Atlanta Public Schools. These folks spanned all walks of life, from CFOs, CEOs, leaders of nonprofits, military, college presidents, and of course, past and or sitting superintendents. The search committee met over 18 times. That's my really, really long-winded way of saying we really, really did our homework. We really, really did our homework, and this process was absolutely above board. It's something that this board and this city could absolutely be proud of. And moreover, we've got the right person at the right time to lead our school system. I have no doubt in my mind that Dr. Kostarfin has the skill set, the temperament, the energy to lead our schools into the future. And I look forward to her leadership. I look forward to working with her in the future. This moment represents a time for the city to believe again. It's time for us to believe again. We've been through a dark time, and that time is over. I'll say it again, that time is over. So without further ado, I would like to present to you Dr. Maria Kostarfin, the next superintendent of the Atlanta Public School System.
Thank you so much. Thank you for inviting me into Atlanta. Thank you for making me part of the community already. Yes, we've done so many meetings, I actually really did lose count, but I did not forget the faces and the message of the residents and the families and the parents and the students and the staff across this great city who had so much to say about their hopes and dreams and aspirations for the future. I want to just be clear that those thousands of people that I've seen over those 36 plus meetings, and he didn't count all the ones that I had to do with the individual board members and also with the board chair, so that's just a whole nother list of multiple conversations to try to be sure that not only was this the right match for Atlanta, but that it would be the right match for me as I thought about what I could bring to the table to work closely, hand in hand with the Atlanta community to plan for the future and to do our very best job for the children here. I am originally from the Deep South. I was born and raised in Selma, Alabama, and as I looked down the road from Selma toward the East Coast, everyone in the Deep South looks up to this city as not only the gateway for the South, but actually as a real center point for our culture and our larger regional community. And it is just a blessing to just be considered, but it's also an honor to be with these people, this board, and the staff that's trying so hard to put things right for Atlanta Public Schools. I know that it is time to bring the pride back to this school system. There's such a deep legacy. I've met probably as many retired teachers and administrators as I have other people who are currently employed in the district, and all of them say the same thing, that they remember a time when the district really was moving in the right direction, where there was a lot of hope and a lot of energy, and that's something people would like to bring back. And you have my commitment to do my part to ensure that the district is really being thoughtful about all of the challenges that it has had in the past, but also mining out those nuggets of extraordinary work and quality work that can be and will be scaled up across the system. I was just in classrooms today visiting schools and spending time with our seniors and some of our 9th and 10th graders. But the seniors gave lots of great advice about what we needed to think about as they're leaving the system. And they still, even as they talk about the last 4 years or several years they've had in the system, they have great things to say about their teachers and their principals and about their experience in APS. And I really want to build on that. And I want to be sure that we acknowledge and recognize the good work that has been done in APS and the good things that have been going on for decades that we need to be sure that we bring to light and really recognize those people and those programs and those schools that are doing a great job, and then to face head on those tough challenges that we know are in front of us, but that if we pull together as a school community and really work hard, and if people just being straight up about it, you're going to work harder than you've ever worked before, but we'll try to make it fun, we'll try to make it exciting, and we'll try to make it rewarding. And I just want to say thank you again to everyone who made this possible, for all the people that were working hard in the background, especially on the search committee. You have so many people across this country that are rooting for Atlanta, rooting for a new day. And I'm just glad that I get to wake up with you soon, starting on July 7th as the sun rises for a new day on Atlanta Public Schools. And I'm just really pleased and honored to be part of it. So thank you so much, and I'm happy to answer any questions that the media has, and I'll turn it back over to the chair. Thank you.
What do you plan to do first? What's first on your agenda?
Well, the first thing on the agenda is actually to spend more time with I'm just hired, so between that and my start date, I really want to spend time with the current superintendent to talk through all of the things that he's learned over the last few years. And from that, we've already had enough conversations to know that we don't want to slow down the train for getting ready for the start of the school year. We want to make sure that we get the best principals possible in the vacancies we have across the district. That's our number one priority, to get focused on those things that are closest to the students in schools. Make sure that we're recruiting between now and the first day of school to get the best teachers in the classroom and retain those principals and teachers that are in place right now. We'll move swiftly to things like the budget. I know that's on the table. We'll have to talk about any changes and adjustments that need to be made between now and the board's action. But the budget and starting early conversations about our pension issue is at the forefront as well. I want to spend time working with the staff on academics and data, ensuring that we have the best information available right now so that we can make real-time changes to ensure that anything we can do even this year or for the start of next school year are in place for academic changes and adjustments. So that's a snapshot of a few things that we've already started talking about, but I feel like it'll be in some big buckets: operational, academics, and leadership, making sure that we have educational leadership and school-based leadership in place so that the school year can get off to a great start.
What is your plan for improving achievement and graduation rates in the system?
Yeah, so I've seen some really good things right now. I talked to our seniors about what they felt like was important to them to be college ready and to graduate on time. They are very supportive of the idea of having dual credits and things of that sort, but also credit recovery is another piece we'll talk about, and expanding access for students to make up where they may have been left behind. We talked a lot today about making sure that there's more rigor at the middle school, and even this weekend people talked to me about elementary school, but middle school and high school, so that our students are being exposed to the right kind of courses, advanced placement, and things of that sort, so that they are really getting the feeling for what it's like to have high expectations in college. But we'll do some work around credit recovery, maybe some thoughts about alternative pathways to graduation, bringing some students back that we've already lost, and making sure that we're getting in front of those in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade so we don't lose them early. But those are some of the big things in real time at the secondary level. But I'll say it now, and I'll say it over and over again. The best way to ensure that you eliminate achievement gaps and that kids will graduate on time is to invest in early childhood education. And that's something that Atlanta, I think, has a huge, huge opportunity to do, that their systems are not fully in place, and we have some partners that we do work with, but it needs to be a system-wide effort. If you really want to think about real-time issues, that's what I started with. If you want to talk about 10 years from now, you have to start with early childhood education. Oh, wait, I'll do her and I'll come back to you. Yes.
What about those students that are still struggling from the cheating scandal? What kind of initiatives are you ready to put in place to help those students?
Right, so you and I talked about this on the radio not too long ago, and I apologize for repeating myself, but I'll say, we will have to go back and track those students. I mean, and our academic staff and our accountability staff will have to go into the system and find those students and really take a careful look at their transcripts and what they have missed and what they may have gained. I mean, I don't want to make any judgments about what staff has done in the interim over the last 4 years or so to be able to rectify some of those issues. But at the heart of it, you'll have to individually find those students and, where necessary, create individual plans for them to make those past wrongs right. And that requires a lot of detailed work, but those are things that we will have to do.
Now, obviously, you're aware of the history of the school system and the backdrop against which your tenure is going to unfold. Did that ever give you second thoughts about accepting this job?
Well,
as people have said to me, it was, getting into a really large urban district, even like Austin, that's twice the size and had its own set of issues and circumstances, that, you're kind of you're in the frying pan of urban ed, and then you kind of jump into the fire when you go to a larger district with more challenges, and that this may be closer to an inferno, it's just like blistering with heat. And yet, none of those things bother me, mostly because that's the context of and the backdrop of the organization. But I can say that I've met the people. I've met the parents, I've met a lot of students, I've met a lot of staff. And what I feel like is, and while there's a lot of truth, of course, it's not all perception, about the past of APS, I think it's been a very heavy-sided story about just that one part of APS. What I've actually witnessed with my own eyes, seen in some of the data, are wonderful things that are happening. And it's that part of the story that I hope the public and the press will take more time to get to know and help us expand on. So, I was like anyone else that was probably in the search for the last 3 years or so, watching what's been happening in Atlanta, being hopeful, but also I think I'm going into it with eyes wide open. I think that I would have never even considered the opportunity to be part of the search if I didn't believe that I have a skill set that I've been working on for a long time, and Atlanta has needs that have been building up for a long time, and these two worlds are about to intersect, where we will have a very special moment to be able to do some great work in this city. And if our school community and the people in this room and all around Atlanta come together to take advantage of that, I think there are many things that we can accelerate and put back on track and be proud of in short order. Yeah.
So Dr. Kostarfin actually has to catch a flight. She is actually still superintendent somewhere. So we do want to excuse her to go do that. Thank you. Yeah, well, we are happy to answer any of your questions. I don't know if folks have questions. I don't know if folks have additional questions, but yay, boy. Great. We good?